Hey guys, Petko here. Welcome to today's video. We're gonna be talking today about Mythic Plus and especially DPS Mythic Plus. We're gonna rank them from worst to best and let's see how that's gonna turn out. First, before I start the video, I would like to put a disclaimer out that this tier list is not the final version. Things are likely to change in the future. So if you guys wanna keep up with the up-to-date version, check out the ISBN's links below or just pretty much check my Discord. If there's any changes to be done, I will be likely doing it there first. And this video will not be updated. So in case Blizzard decides to post a hotfix on, you're gonna find it down the video below, down the links below or my Discord, pretty much. All right, so before we begin, I would like to add some credibility towards my work. As you guys already know, I've been doing this for the past couple years and this season has no difference. I've been myself 4 times in a row the rank 1 team in the world with different kind of players. You can take a look from the previous seasons, except this one, which I didn't play as much. I've been 4 times the highest shaman in the world. I've been once the highest lock in the world during BFA season 1. I've also been the highest hunter in Europe during season 4 BFA season as well. If you guys take a look, the rank 1 team in Europe with my shaman. So overall, I had a broad experience with Mythic Plus. So you guys can at least trust me, and I'm not like, you know, kind of a random guy that never played Mythic Plus and out of nowhere decides to make a tier list, you know. But anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. And at last, one small thing, if you have different opinion in mind, it's completely okay. No problem. Again, at the end of the day, I'm just a human. I could make mistakes, you know. And if I am wrong, please let me know so we can take a look and fix it. Now, at the very bottom of the tier list, I'm going to be placing a Retribution Paladin. Now, why would I place Retribution Paladin? Now, Retribution Paladin currently experiences several problems. One of them is having a very mediocre / bad legendary, especially for Mythic Plus. Again, there are different builds that you can play on, but the most common build is the Killian build, knowing to be very strong burst-wise every minute and every 2 minutes. However, during the downtime between 1 and 2 minutes, you have pretty much like not enough DPS, low sustain DPS. Mobility, you're pretty crappy mobility. Utility-wise is the strongest point right now because you have stuff like Blessing of Sacrifice, which could be very, very useful in certain situations. You have like Lay of Hands, Binding Light, Devotion Aura, Hammer of Justice if needed. Also one of the few DPS classes with an immunity. Overall, pretty useful utility coming from the Retribution Paladin. Although low damage output, mediocre at most, I would say, and also pretty poor mobility. Outside of like your horse, you pretty much are naked. So yeah, so far the lowest ranked DPS. Following in the tier list is gonna be Feral Druid. Feral Druid, however, is placed on a C tier, 1 tier above the Paladin, but it's currently in one of I would say mediocre shape. They used to be really good in the PTR, but then they received 2 very big nerfs, and after that they couldn't recover. Currently, their strongest point is their single target, especially if you do plan to play Night Fae. Amazing single target, funnel damage / DPS as well is pretty decent, especially on like sub 5 targets. The more targets you have, however, the less they perform because they recently nerfed their 4-piece tier set. One thing that Druids are known for is having crazy survivability, and that is no difference on Feral Druid. Feral Druid right now is like one of the tankiest DPS. However, their output, especially AoE output, is a lot less than the classes placed above them. This shouldn't discourage you to play a Feral Druid, but just so you know, all the classes will be better, and you're also going to be finding quite difficult to enter any Mythic Plus key, so you might end up just being in a queue for like minutes or even hours. So if you're willing to go through that, go for it. Great pick, however. Next on the tier list is going to be Unholy DeathKnight. Now, Unholy DeathKnight, in my opinion, is one of the most valuable DPS classes in Raid. However, in Mythic Plus, things are not quite the same. Their profile is quite bursty, Cedar Line pretty much profile, which means during the downtime between no cooldowns, they have very little to almost no output, which definitely hurts spec the most. Having no mobility outside your Death Advance is also another main flaw that the spec has, and hopefully that will be addressed in the future expansions or patches, right? Who knows? Your utility is pretty good, I would say. Anti-magic zone could be useful against magical fights, right? You have also asphyxiation if you're talented, pretty much like the single target stun. Your pet can also be kind of a second interrupt / mini stun. Single death grip could be pretty useful. in some situations, if for example mob is fleeing or you want to interrupt something. Again, you have also CR in the face of raised ally, and Death Strike could be used as a self kind of heal, which can definitely bolster your self-sustain if needed. However, on and on, I would say great for raiding, mediocre for Mythic Plus. If you're willing to go with it, go for it. In my opinion, it's fun to play, not as strong though. Next on the list is gonna be a Affliction Lock. Why am I placing Affliction Lock on a C tier? Their tier set bonus is absolutely poop, I would say. Sorry to say that. Both of 2-piece and 4-piece doesn't really align with the builds you're playing for Mythic Plus, because as you guys already know, the current most popular build for Mythic Plus, the Seed build, is not being supported by the 2-piece and 4-piece legendary, which kind of pretty much forces you to cast Malefic Rupture, which is something you want to avoid if you want to play the Seed build. Now with the 2-piece and 4-piece set, you might see a different playstyle, or in general shift of like the way Affliction Lock is played. Your utility, I would say, is decent at most, maybe like a little bit better than Unholy DeathKnight, because also you have a CR and also Hellstones, Shadow Fury, which is pretty useful, like an AoE stun. Gate could be useful in some scenarios, for example, if you want to, let's say, skip a specific pack or mob that is dangerous. Banish could be useful, for example, in a Plague for first boss. You can banish the Uzlings. Mortal Coil, kind of a self-sustain, also Fear, which could be stopped, which could be used as stop for a cast, and also second defensive if you go for that Dark Pact. You're also pretty tanky as a spec itself, so I would say if they fix your DPS, if you get like a flat buff or rework on your tier set, I could see Affliction jumping straight to like B or even A tier. But as of now speaking, the main thing that drags you down is pretty much your tier set. If that's been addressed, I'm pretty sure Affliction are going to be amazing. Alright, so next on the tier list, in my opinion, the best performing DPS on a C tier currently is Frost Death-Knight. As you already know, their main strength is CD Reliant Burst, especially on AoE, and even single target if they play Bretos and Dragoza build. However, their main flaw, utility and also mobility, just like Unholy DeathKnight, is something you cannot deny. If that has been addressed, or maybe they add an ability that allows them to have extra, let's say, mobility or even extra utility, then in this case we can see both Frost and Unholy rising in the rankings. However, one small thing that I want to mention is also the lack of damage during off cooldowns is also something not to be shy of. However, I must say Frost Death-Knight currently has the better, outside of the two Death-Knight specs, a lot better than Unholy DeathKnight off cooldowns. In my opinion, the best performing spec in the C tier. If I need to judge it only from DPS point of view, I would place Frost in a B tier. However, several things go into consideration, just like utility, mobility, survivability, and also self-sustain, which again are not the best. Not in the best favor of Frost Death-Knight right now. Alright, so next on our tier list is gonna be BeastMastery Hunter, placed on the bottom of a B tier. Now, BeastMastery Hunter also received a mediocre tier set for Mythic Plus. Their 2-piece and 4-piece bonuses are not really well suited for Mythic Plus. They are really more for like PvP / raiding. Their core issue has not been addressed yet, and that is their AoE damage. Their AoE damage right now is among the lowest in the entire patch / game, which I really hope that it was going to be addressed, but again, I was definitely wrong in that one. Their toolkit is amazing utility, again, intimidation, single target stun, binding shot, slow trap. You have also misdirection, which can be pretty much like a trick of trades of the horde. Trank shot is enrage dispel, and many more utilities. But genuinely, I would say one of the best utilities in the game. Quite mobile spec. Also, survivability wise, you're pretty decent. Not as bad as MM Hunter is a lot more squishy than you. BM is a lot more tanky due to paying the Tenacity pet, which is pretty much your unique pet, exotic pet, quote unquote, that gives you more stamina, and also have a small self heal. And you can also use stuff like acceleration, kind of a semi-cheat, like semi-hailstone in a way. And also you can help yourself with like a Fainted Conduit that can give you more DR. But genuinely, I would say pretty solid spec. If their AoE was addressed, I could see the spec going as high as A tier. But as of now, going here. Shadow Priest is another spec where I'm deeply disappointed. Spec was performing great in the PTR. However, on the last PTR build, they completely nerfed the spec. They nerfed their core Necro build by 40%, nerfing their Lego by 40%, and also they nerfed by 40% their 4-piece bonus, which was again netting for almost 30% of the overall. Just like Feral Druid, they completely gutted the 4-piece tier set. Now it's looking mediocre at most. You might go Nightfare build and don't play Necro anymore, but damage wise you had the strongest single target in the game. After the nerfs, it's still pretty good, but it's not like amazing as it used to be. Your main weakness is pretty much your utility, especially something like your kick. Your interrupt is every 45 seconds, which could definitely damage the way your party is flowing. Which again, in Mythic Plus is super important to have a crowd control mobs, especially to like prevent specific casts from going through, which can obviously slow down their whole run. So definitely your utility is like the biggest issue. Also outside of that, you have stuff like Psychic Scream and Psychic Horror, which can help you out pretty much if you need to interrupt mobs. But then again, it's not like, you know, stuff like, let's say, Elemental Shaman utility or Balance Weight, right? You have Power of Fortitude, which is pretty much a 5% stamina on top. Vampiric Embrace, you have a Disease Dispel, which could be pretty useful, and a Mass Dispel, which again bursting, that is like the best thing ever. But all in all, I would say still good DPS on ST, mediocre AoE, utility wise you're pretty weak, I would say mobility wise you're pretty weak, self-sustain is decent at most because you have some kind of a leech, right? Every time you do damage you get healed a bit. I would say still solid spec, however you're gonna spend a lot of time in a queues waiting to get invited. Next on the tier list is going to be a controversial pick, in my opinion. Enhancer Shaman goes here in the mid tier list. Now, Enhancer previously has been pretty low ranked. However, with the recent changes, Enhancer definitely goes there. They're going to be a lot better for raiding and PvP than Mythic Plus. In raiding are likely to be the top 2 specs right now overall. However, for Mythic Plus, that is not the case. Now, they're going to be pretty strong if they're being paired, for example, with full melee squad, let's say Warrior, Enhancer, Rogue. You can get away with like having Wind Fury as the main value of the group, and also playing small dungeons like Theater of Pain, Spires, Plague Wolf. Then I can see Enhancer being like A tier, even going to like close to S tier. However, if you put it like generally across all classes and you don't, you know, summarize their Wind Fury as their main strength, in this case Enhancer becomes pretty mediocre with having pretty poor AoE. I think AoE is like your by far the weakest point. Utility wise amazing, ST amazing, mobility amazing, self-sustain amazing as well, because you're able to like dish out so much self-heals if you need it, right? With instant cast. AoE is something that is pretty bad, let's say, especially if you consider past like 7 to 10 targets, which again sometimes could be the case in dungeons like Sanguine Death, for example, or Host of Atonement, or, you know, the other side, especially in the Ardenwood area, pretty bad there. But all in all, I would say it depends on a comp, depends on a dungeon. This pick could become A+ tier, even close to S tier, and in some dungeons pretty bad, like C tier. So overall, I would say B tier on average, with the possibility to go higher. Next on the tier list is going to be Outlaw Rogue. I know that spec has been ignored in the past and simply not given the time to shine. However, I must say that their overall toolkit, even though the damage profile is not really amazing, is just like insane, right? So let's start with mob control. Mob control is like something that is severely important in Mythic Plus, as I already talked about. Outlaw has the best mob control. Gouge, Blind, Kidney Shot, Cheap Shot, Sap. That's, you know, just part of the toolkit. Survivability wise, again, you have a Cheat Death in the face of like Evasion or even Cloak of Shadows. Cheated as a talent, you have Feint, pretty much the shortest CD, the shortest defensive cooldown in the game. Vanish could be pretty useful in some skips. You have a Shroud as well to skip specific mobs. Self-sustain can be Crimson Vial, pretty unique ability. Also, you have Poisons that can help your tank or group pretty much take less damage, or Kite. You have a Shift, which pretty much it removes the enraged effects from mobs. You have great single target. The only disadvantage is you being still capped target, right? Your Blade Flurry is still capped to 5 targets, which is the biggest drawback. And I can tell you right now, if they fix Blade Flurry and uncap it, this pick goes straight to A tier. Straight to A tier, because in some dungeons like Theater of Pain and Plagueful Inspires, you're still gonna be amazing, still definitely A or S tier. However, as soon as you step into heavy AoE dungeons, you fall significantly behind. So AoE is like your biggest issue, and I hope that they will address that in the future. Alright, so next on the tier list, Fire Mage. Now, why do I think Fire Mage belongs to B tier? Now, recently has been nerfed by quite a bit. I must say their value got significantly stripped down as soon as they nerfed their 4-piece tier set, which pretty much cut their combustion power, aka AoE and ST power, by quite a lot. Now, Fire Mage utility is also pretty good. You have stuff like Dragon Breath, which can be used as a second stop. You have also a Cold Rise, which is pretty much like a Cheat Dead. You're pretty good in terms of like survivability. You have immunity, and also a Blazing Barrier, which can be used to be you know, obviously to save yourself. Also mirror images, and every time you blink also have a small shield. DPS wise, you're very city aligned, which means like as long as you have no cooldowns, you're pretty much below the tank. But if you make the best use out of your cooldowns, definitely pretty solid spec. Now this spec can shine specifically if you play it in the pre-made group, let's say group of friends, or like, you know, general well organized group. Combustion is a very big cooldown, very good cooldown. However, if you play in pucks and if you fuck up your combustion, then I'm sorry to say, but you're gonna be bleeding a lot, right? So hey, better watch out. Right, so next to the tier list, I'm gonna be placing Balanced Druid. Now Balanced Druid has one main issue that has not been addressed yet going into the next season, and that is the Starfall having a cooldown and also not being stackable, right? So for example, if you have an extra resources and you want to dump that into AoE, you don't have any option except for wait to Starfall to recharge, or just pump Star Surges, which is pretty much like a ST ability, not really AoE. That is the main issue of Balanced Druid, and I hope that it gets addressed in the future. Now, recently with the nerf of Kyrian build, I think you're gonna be likely to go again back to either Ventir or, for example, Night Fae. If you go Ventir, you're pretty much every 10 minutes you're gonna be insane DPS, and then during those off 3 minutes you're gonna have like mediocre DPS, which is again pretty bad. Your ST is amazing, no doubt one of the best STs in the game. Your defensive mechanism, sorry, kind of like survivability is amazing. Also, bar skin and pretty much bear, kind of passive mitigation. So you're pretty tanky, and your utility is like, in my opinion, the best in the game. Stampeding Roar, Soothe, Orso Vortex, Typhoon, Force of Nature, Innervate, you just name it, right? You name it, you have it. Master Root, Single Root, Cyclone. You know, like if I'm sitting here all day and telling you all about the utility, I have to name like 30 spells. Balanced Druid all in all amazing, and I hope that they will find a solution for their major problem. Until then, B tier is where they belong. Next on the tier list is gonna be Arcane Mage. Arcane Mage is previously one of the kings of Mythic Plus. Now, however, are not looking very great. Now their private damage is really good. Again, one of the best, if not the best, private damage. Touch of Magni can absolutely shred important mobs, especially if you fight like 4, 5, plus 6 mobs, and you spam and you focus the highest HP mob, you're gonna delete it, which can definitely save time. Again, utility wise, you're no different than Fire Mage. The only exception is you having no Cauterize, which pretty much sucks because you don't have a Chi Dead, but they have also a greater invisibility, which makes you invis faster, and also gives you a 60% DR 3 seconds after you reappear from the invis, which can be pretty much very useful if you play around it. You're very city reliant spec, which means that can be a disadvantage if you, however, mistime your cooldowns. So you need to pay attention, exactly know which routes you're doing and what exactly you're doing. So I would say it's hard to execute in the pucks, but in the pre-made group, this spec can climb to A tier. In my opinion, so far I would give it a B tier, and I would say if you play with the pre-made, think about it, you are going a lot higher than B tier for sure. Alright, next to the tier list is gonna be Assassination Rogue. Again, why are Assa Rogues so high? Because first of all, they have a great single target. As always, Assa Rogue has insane single target and also utility. Pretty much you hold the same utility as any other rogue spec, except the fact that you have Garrote. Garrote is a kind of a silence which can be used on not just one mob, but like several mobs, which again can help you tank or in general your party survive important pools, especially if those pools consist of casters. For example, Halls of Atonement caster heavy dungeon spires, for example, could be also the case. All in all, definitely insane utility. The biggest drawback from the spec right now is pretty much being unable to excel in AoE, which is the biggest flaw, and I hope that's going to be addressed in the future. Buff the AoE by a little bit, maybe gain maybe like remove some of their ST powers and give back to some AoE. I'm not sure exactly what is the solution, but again, Vendetta is probably one of your strongest cooldowns for like damage. That is pretty much a single target cooldown, it's not really AoE, but I would say still pretty solid spec, and if in the right hands, this spec can really shine. Alright, next on the tier list, Havoc DemonHunters. Now, why do I think Havoc DemonHunters are going to be in A tier? First of all, Havoc DemonHunter, in my opinion, has one of the best toolkits as a DPS, like utility toolkit, especially from a melee point of view. First of all, Chaos Nova, the AoE stun, combined with Fail Eruption, the single target stun is insane. Darkness, again, external defensive cooldown to the whole party. You have also Netherwalk, which is pretty much an immunity. Blur, very strong defensive. You have Chaos Brand, which is again a 5% magical damage increase to all of the players in your party or raid. It's insane. Pretty mobile spec in the face of Fail Rush or Vengeful Retreat. Imprison can be used as a off CD CC, which can make you skip specific packs or even a bunch of mobs. So all in all, I would say you are very versatile spec with a high single target and mediocre AoE. AoE is your biggest problem. As soon as you enter like a big heavy AoE dungeons, you're gonna be falling behind big time. So in case you enter like Host of Atonement and get out DPS by the tank, don't worry. Unless it's a Guardian Druid, you shouldn't be worried. Yeah. But as of now speaking, I would say if they get to fix their AoE, I already predict that spec is gonna climb a lot higher. As of now, stays in the A tier at the bottom. Next on that tier list is gonna be Arms Warrior. Now, why am I putting Arms so high? First of all, Arms has insane tier set. The 2-piece and 4-piece are just insanely good. Great utility coming from the Warrior as well, which again, great utility only if you get paired with the melee. Exactly because of Battle Shot. Now, Battle Shot is very strong utility. 5% AP to the whole party or raid, which again, if you place them with like Wind Fury group, let's say Enhancement Shaman, Warrior, or Rogue, WindWalker Warrior, those 5% sometimes can make or break the key. Rallying Cry, very important external cooldown again, just like Havoc DH, one of the few DPS classes with the external cooldown that is like a defensive. Intervene, Safeguard, Conduit, which is pretty much DR. The main strength of Arms Warriors right now are the ability to do amazing single target. So weeks like Tyrannical, they can melt mobs pretty much. The Kirin build allows it to have a very high burst, a lot less AoE sustain however. Like your sustained AoE DPS is a lot less than some classes, that's why you're already here, not at the bottom, sorry, not at the top. All in all, I would say great spec to play, but in my opinion, it's going to be living in the shadows forever because Fury Warrior exists, right? Again, I'm gonna get to that later on. Next on the tier list is gonna be Destruction Lock. Now, this is something that I myself am quite uncertain. However, I'm gonna be shooting my shot for, and I'll explain you why. I feel like Destruction Lock right now, main strength is definitely AoE. In my opinion, the highest AoE burst class, or in general, AoE sustained class in the game right now. With the only drawback being having a mediocre utility and also very poor mobility. Utility-wise, as I've already mentioned, is similar to Demolock and Destrulock. So the utility is at most mediocre. In some cases, it could be really good, depends if you can make the best out of it. But most of the time, mediocre at most. Their single target is also pretty bad. Honestly, pretty bad single target. That is something I'm looking forward for them to address. And until then, definitely the spec deserves to be here. However, I must mention something. If you get to play with the pre-made party, especially in some dungeons like Host of Atonement or Ardenveld area in the other side, this spec goes to not S tier, goes to S plus tier, right? So in the hands of the right person or the right group, or if you play around the lock goes immediately to S plus tier if you know what to do with it. Considering pucks never pull more than 10-15 mobs at a time, I don't think you're gonna see the full potential in pucks. However, in a pre-made group like MDI, the Great Push, you are gonna be seeing locks, especially Destro, and I'm very confident in that one. Alright, so next on the tier list is gonna be Elemental Shaman. Again, Elemental Shaman, hands down, one of the best ranged classes right now in the game. Currently, amazing AoE. In my opinion, within your builds, you're gonna have one of the best single targets in the game. Once your weakness, now your strength. Utility wise, again, Tremor Totem, Earth Elemental Totem, Cap Totem, Cleanse Spirit, Spirit Walker's Grace, the shortest kick in the game, Bloodlust, you name it, we have it all. We have it all. The spec itself, however, it doesn't really perform well on the lower end keys. Not that it doesn't perform well, but like most of your cooldowns are very long. Like your cooldowns can be between the 1 minute to 1 minute and a half, and most of the pack on like 15 to 20 keys ish are dying within like 30 seconds most, so you cannot really make the best out of your cooldowns. So I would say the longer the key goes, or like the more mobs live, the better it becomes. Elder Shaman also sometimes can suffer from inexperienced tanks. The more you tank kites, the less damage you're gonna do, because your main damage, especially AoE, comes from ground effects, and that is your Earthquake. So I would say in the pre-made group, once again, or on the higher end keys, this spec goes to S tier in my opinion. On the lower end keys, it's gonna become like mediocre, slightly above mediocre, that's why it's gonna be an A tier list. Alright, next in the tier list is gonna be Marksmanship Hunter. Now, this spec, in my opinion, is the best for lower keys. The higher the key goes, unlike Elemental, the worse it becomes. The lower the key is, MM is just insanely good. high burst, high sustained damage, high single target as well, great utility, great mobility. However, survivability is your main issue. You have nothing to defend yourself, not even verse by the way, because you don't spec verse due to verse being your worst stat. So you're playing with low verse, the worst defensive cooldown in a game, which is like 3 minutes for 20% DR, called survival of the fittest. So generally you're gonna be hurt a lot. If your healers are inexperienced or you don't know exactly how to protect yourself, especially on stuff like Tyrannical, or any kind of unavoidable damage, you're gonna die. You're gonna die hands down. You do damage, but you take damage. So I would say, if they address that issue in the next patch or next expansion, MM is gonna become top tier spec. Hands down, the best, in my opinion, spec for lower keys. So if you're looking to play lower keys, MM is your go-to range spec. Hands down, recommend it right now. Alright, next on the tier list is gonna be WindWalker Monk. Now, previously, WindWalker Monk, the kings of Mythic Plus, the best DPS spec for Sea of Season 2. Nowadays, it's gonna be, in my opinion, still a very good choice, but not meta anymore. Their utility toolkit is again amazing. Mystic Touch gives 5% extra physical damage to the whole party or raid. Leg Sweep, Detox. You have also Disease Spell, Tiger's Lust, Paralysis, Ring of Peace. I mean, you name it. Like, you have almost everything. The only thing that you don't have right now is a great single target. You're always known to have a great AoE. However, your ST is like not your main strength, you know, which is something that I would love to address, how important it is to have a good ST, especially in stuff like Tyrannical, right? Also, your tier set has some kind of a bugs. For example, your Storm, Earth, and Fire sometimes can consume the 3 stacks of your 4-piece tier set, which is again unintended, and I hope that they will fix it, or maybe they have already fixed it by the time I record this video. So again, your set is not really amazing, but it will do the work. So I'm looking forward to see how this spec is going to be played later on in the patch once you have Beast Gear, Max Conduit, see how competitive it's going to be. But for now, my opinion remains in an A tier list. Coming into A tier list, Demonology Warlock. Demonology Warlock previously has been significantly undervalued, especially at the very early of the expansion. However, as I already told you guys since like probably a year and a half ago, Lock, especially Demo, needs some time to scale up. Higher secondary stats, more gear, and right now you're one of the best, if not the best, range specialization in Mythic Plus because of that very high damage profile. AoE and ST, amazing. Great AoE, great ST, great power damage, exactly what you need from a DPS spec class. And your biggest disadvantage coming from your poor mobility and poor utility. As I've already mentioned, Lock utility is not known to be the best in Mythic Plus. However, Demon Lock can be justified because of their high damage profile, which again, in my opinion, definitely can save up some time, especially in the groups where you like, for example, either single target or AoE. Lock, especially Demo, is your go-to spec. Very fun to play, rewarding to play, and in my opinion, it's the best ever since the release of the Shadowlands, right? So at the very beginning, they were pretty bad. Then they became a little bit better, and now they're blasters, right? It took them just a year and a half to ramp up, but hey, they're finally here. Next on the tier list is gonna be Frost Mage. Now, you guys might be confused, why am I placing Frost Mage on A tier? Frost Mage was significantly nerfed coming into the release of 9.2. Before that, on a PTR, they were the kings. However, their 2 iconic abilities, Frozen Orb and Blizzard, were nerfed by 12%, which will mostly damage the AoE, but also a bit of ST. Moreover, the cooldown of the CDR of Frozen Orb has been reduced from 0.5 to 0.25, which means a lot less Frozen Orbs throughout the whole key, actually twice the value less, which again is mostly affecting their AoE. Their 2-piece and 4-piece tier set, however, is amazing, which will pretty much contribute a lot to their damage since the nerfs, so it will kind of equalize the damage that they do right now. They'll pretty much have the same damage going to 9.2. So because, you know, they got nice buffs for the tier set, then the nerfs, so now they're gonna be kind of equal. So you can expect to have the same damage as this tier, maybe a bit higher because of the higher item level, right? In my opinion, one of the best, if not the best, utilities in the game because of the slow. The perma slow, the extra frost novas are just amazing, especially if you play the Elemento, not really lonely winter. So the Elemento is giving you extra frost nova, which is like triple frost nova. So in my opinion, very tanky spec. You also play Dreamweaver, which pretty much is like a kind of a cheated because of the pot tender. So you have a double block, 1 cheated, You also have tons of ice barriers, uptime, you know, invisibility, spell steal, time warp, perma-slow, frost levels, cone of crowd, like you name it, they have it, right? In my opinion, the go-to spec for range right now, and it's likely the easiest to play, in my opinion. Definitely solid pick. And if you have never played Mage before, give it a try. You would enjoy it. Alright, so finally, S tier. Where is the juice at, boys? I'm gonna be placing 3 specs on a tier list. First one, Fury Warrior. Now why is Fury here? Fury overall, insane damage, both ST and AoE. Utility wise also pretty good, especially if you are playing with the Mythic group. Now again, not the best, but not the worst. I would say definitely above average. Spell Reflection, as always, amazing toolkit. Can be used as arms as well. Can save you a lot of time in the right hands. Also, your tier set is absolutely insane for Mythic Plus. In general, pretty good for DPS wise in the dungeon scenarios. You're very reliant in terms of like mobility, so you can, you know, charge in, intervene back, leap through. Definitely mobile spec. The only pretty much disadvantage is having no immunity, which sometimes can really suck. But your self-sustain is also, I would say, decent as well. Not really the best, not the worst. But yeah, pretty much one of the best, if not the best mid list right now, except you know, Survival and Sub Rogue being a lot more valuable than you. Survival Hunter, in my opinion, is the best performing kind of a hybrid right now. Legit, I mean, it's hybrid because it's a melee and range at the same time. But that's mostly due to their bugs. Now I know they have been recently nerfed. I know they have been, sorry, not nerfed, but like kind of fixed. But they still have some issues / bugs that do not work as intended. Again, I'm gonna be attaching the Hunter Discord or in general Hunter guides later on down there in the description. You guys can check it out if you want to. But right now they have, in my opinion, the most well-rounded DPS spec right now. Both AoE, ST, pretty good. Utility-wise, amazing. Survivability, not the best, not the worst. I would say on the lower keys is pretty good. On higher keys, however, things can go a bit rough. Luckily, you have Verse as one of the better stats out there, unlike MM, for example. So overall, you're gonna be fine. You also have a trick, so you have a misdirection which can be used as a kind of a tricks, right? Similar to Rogue's utility. Trunk Shot as well, Bloodlust as well. Overall, amazing. I have not seen better version of Survival until nowadays, and I really hope that remains this way, so we get to see some kind of a new fresh spec into the quote-unquote meta. But maybe once they get nerfed or maybe even fixed, we're likely to see Survival not performing optimally, but you know, only time can actually tell us. For now, they definitely very solid spec and remain on the S tier list. At last, in my opinion, the safest choice in terms of melee DPS or general DPS is gonna be Sub Rogue. Now why am I placing Sub Rogue first? Because the best funnel damage, insane single target, insane toolkit, likely the best toolkit in Mythic Plus. Survivability, the best survivability in Mythic Plus. Mobility, one of the best in Mythic Plus. Utility, one of the best in Mythic Plus. Self-sustain, pretty good. The only issue that holds Sub Rogue is their AoE. If their AoE was like the best, I can tell you, triple Sub Rogue with the play. Similar meta was back in the days in BFA, we had triple Outlaw Rogue for like several seasons together. But I think AoE is like the biggest issue of Rogue, especially Sub Rogue, and that is why you won't see double, triple Rogue, but you're gonna be seeing at least one Rogue in every single team, just like right now. In my opinion, overall, insane, and there's nothing else to say. Pretty much, if you're looking to get into Mythic Plus and you don't want to play as a melee, safe bet, go Rogue, go Sub Rogue. Thank me later. Alright boys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did like the video, make sure to subscribe and smash the like button. That's so cringe, right? But anyway, I gotta say it. Anyway, peace out. I'll see you some other time, even Twitch, even YouTube. Who the heck knows? If not, check ICVs below for the most up-to-date tier lists. Again, this could change, this might not change, but only time is gonna tell us. Peace out.